Welcome to the Sense of Soul podcast. We are your hosts, Shanna and Mandy.
Grab your coffee, open your mind, heart, and soul. It's time to awaken. Today we have with us Chris Atley. She is an award-winning coach. She is an NLP Master Practitioner with a degree in psychology, best-selling author, and international TED Talk speaker. Chris speaks on stages around the world on coach approach and self-care for success for coaches, entrepreneurs, and growth-centered organizations alike. She has been studying human behavior for her entire life. She draws from 23 years of business experience and is known for her ability to identify the mindset blocks preventing them from realizing their big dreams and goals. Chris is the founder of DecisionsByDesign.com, where she guides coaches to unlearn their limits, step into their greatness, and make empowered decisions that lead to incredible results for themselves and their clients. She also is the podcast host of One Simple Truth with her best friend, Amy Yates. It is such a pleasure to have Chris here with us. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here with you guys. I've been loving your podcast. I've been tuning in. So yeah, this is so cool.
We are excited to jump into this, and we always like to start from the very beginning, and that is, where did your journey start and how did it lead to you to where you are today?
Oh yeah, such a great question. And it's interesting because in the bio, studying human behavior, I really do feel like it's been my whole life, just being so interested in how people show up and why they do what they do and analyzing that sort of thing. So it's kind of no coincidence that I would end up in a field, that was around studying that even more and looking at, where people are blocked and how to help them through that. But really my journey, it began, I was already in a different career. So that was going well in insurance, actually, which I chose. Most people fall into it.
Yeah.
But I had a summer job and I was at an insurance company during university. And I thought, oh, this sounds really interesting. I saw a job posting for helping people when they got in car accidents. So I thought, oh, I want to help people. That's what I'll do. I was going to school for psychology. And so I started, with a career like 4 days after finishing university and just kind of took off in that direction. And about 10 years in, I just really started, or almost 10 years, I should say, started feeling stuck and just not passionate about it anymore, even though it was going well, but really seeing people at their worst. I would say it was pretty adversarial with people wanting to sue and things like that. When I felt like I was helping, it was okay, but it was just not the best environment. And I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I thought maybe I'll go back to school. I couldn't quite figure it out. And lo and behold, it actually took my dad passing away unexpectedly. And it was a couple months after our first child was born. And so it was already like a crazy time, overwhelming. And then that happened. So I was left feeling really sort of angry and like, why are we here? Soul searching, but from a negative place, really. What is the meaning of life? When I look back, those were the questions I was asking. And I ended up being led to the movie The Secret a couple months later, or a few months later. And I always think this is so interesting, because it's about like attracts like. And it took being in a good mood to even watch it, because it had been sitting in my house untouched for a month. And I was on maternity leave at the time. In Canada, we have a big maternity leave. And I went for lunch with a girlfriend and had the best time and came home. And I was like, I'm going to watch that movie. And I put it in and I was just blown away that our thoughts can create our reality. And I just wanted to learn everything that I could about that topic. And in that moment, they talk about following your bliss. And I knew for me, it was moving to California. So thankfully, my husband was on board and we put that into place. And then soon doors started opening. So I soon found out later about coaching. It wasn't such a big thing back then. And I thought, this is it. This sounds like the perfect fit. And then I went and hired a coach to make sure and made incredible life changes that I wasn't expecting. So then I really believed in the process and went and got certified. And then kind of the rest is history from there. It's been a journey though.
Sorry to hear about your dad. Was this in your 20s? I'm just curious, like early 20s, because just yesterday in my class, I had a young girl, she was 25. And we were going through the chakras because I teach Reiki, and we get to the developmental stages of the chakras. So your chakra, the solar plexus, develops around 14 to 21 years old. And we were talking about that, and I thought, well, this is where your passion and purpose develops. This is all about your identity, but really all of the self and soul things are all nothing but passions and purposes, right? What you're here to be, but no one asks you when you're 14 to 21 years old, what is your passion? What are you, naturally good at? What do you like? It's none of that. It's what are you going to do with your life, and where are you going to go to college, and how much money you're going to make? That's the kind of like mindset that adults are putting on children. And then children are developing these very limited beliefs because they're very limited on what society is offering that fits within what they are naturally good at.
Totally. Yeah, it's so true. We're not really, I would like to think that's shifting these days. I hope so. But definitely when we were growing up, it was like, yeah, you just go and get a job and then you retire and that's it.
Well, I think that for me, it was definitely brought up as a kid, but it wasn't ever like encouraged to feed it. Like, for example, Mandy, what is your passion? Animals. Well, what do you want to be when you grow up? A veterinarian. But then it wasn't really ever talked about much about, like, a lot of times we just ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? For example, my daughter's passion, she loves art. She loves to sit and do art. So now as an adult, it's my job to continue to find ways to encourage her passion currently.
Totally. Yes. I love that. I know I have a son who's in high school and he's really entrepreneurial. So we're trying to encourage that, that you can do anything with this and what lights you up and makes you happy. And the other thing is I feel like there's so much stress on kids this age to figure it out. And it's like, you might end up doing something that doesn't even exist right now. You just need to follow the path of what makes you happy and what you're interested in, and it'll keep unfolding. That's it. That's all we need to do.
I think another thing, and you guys, please correct me if you think that this is not truth, but I think a lot of the things that especially empaths like us are passionate about, unfortunately, don't pay very well. So, I know when I worked at Children's Hospital, working with children was a major passion of mine. I got paid $12 an hour. Look at teachers. So a lot of people go against what their passion truly is because financially they can't live.
Yeah, it's true. Which is unfortunate because I think even that, there's a limiting belief around that we absolutely can create the abundance we want doing what we love. It might just show up in a different form than what we're thinking of,
And what about women? Women are just not, it's not very long where there wasn't even a quarter of this much opportunity that we have today. And I think having a woman, seated in office, as a vice president is a huge thing for women, a huge thing. And that we can really gather strength from. Totally. I'll have to tell you, when I came into the relationship that I'm in right now, after I had my daughter, so I had 3 kids with my ex-husband, and then I have 1 with my current. And when I first had her, it was about, I think she was like 1. He was like, well, aren't you going to go back to work? And I was like, are you crazy? And he was like, no, aren't you going to work? And I was like, I have a baby and I have 4 other kids. How would I work? He was like, well, my mom did. And I looked at her, I was like, holy shit. Here in Colorado, women have been like that. They've gone to college. His mom had her own business, her own life. But I'm from Louisiana. So we're a little bit more traditionally, we stay home with our kids. You talk about that in your TED Talk. Pan in the pan.
Yeah. And that's what I was just thinking of. It's such a great example of how those beliefs are passed down. And I grew up the opposite way in Canada, at least where we were from, everybody worked. So, my mom worked, my grandma had a business, so everybody worked. And then moving to California, at least where we are here, it's totally different. It's like what you're talking about, where most of the women are highly educated, but they stay home. So it's like, the beliefs are passed down. So yeah, I digress. The ham in the pan is one of my favorites because it illustrates it so perfectly. So there's a husband and wife, and they're preparing a ham, and the wife cuts the ends off, and he asks why she's doing that. And she says, I don't know. I just have always done it that way. So they ask her mom, and why do you cut the ends off? And she said, I don't know. I've just always done it this way. This is how we prepare a ham. So then they ask the grandma, why do you prepare the ham that way? And she says, oh, that's easy. It's because my pan was too small. So then she had to cut the ends off to fit, right? And it was passed down that that's just how we cook a ham. So
that hit me. When I listened to your TED Talk, I was like, holy shit, that's like the story of my life. I mean, I'm sure there was a reason that we were limiting ourselves for something, even if it's the crust of the ham,
for all of us. And it's like, until we are questioning, why do we believe what we do? Then we can start to have that shift and create a more empowered belief system. Because what's that quote? Like, whether you believe you do or you don't, that'll be your reality. I just butchered that, but
yeah, so it sounded good.
A lot of people cringe when they hear about a lot of this pain or beliefs going back to when they were a child, because they immediately think, oh, I don't want to have to revisit that. A lot of people don't believe that. And a lot of times it's interesting. I find that parents almost go, no, because they get offended. It triggers them like, no, I didn't do anything wrong when I was a parent, And so inner child work has always seemed to be this weird word that triggers people. I don't know if you find that, but it's kind of like, ooh, do we really have to go all the way back to when we were a child and what we were instilled with, and the beliefs and even the symbolism and, all of that, and look at that to heal who we are today? So my question is, do we?
Yeah, I think so. And you know what? I love that you just full on call it that, because I don't even call it that. I just call it timeline therapy. And then, what's blocking you to reach your dreams and have your goals come true. But it always goes there, because wherever someone's blocked, it goes back to those decisions that they've made in childhood. And that's running the show in the subconscious, right? And that's causing them to make the decisions, take the action or not take action and I focus a lot on business, but it's always back to something that happened in childhood where they made an important decision.
Okay. So as a parent though, you sit there and you go, oh my God, like that puts so much burden on you as a parent. Like every move I make could affect my child in 20 years. We can get stuck in that blame, like it blaming me because when you were 4 years old, I didn't do this or didn't do that. It can get kind of like into this blame game. And I think what I heard you just say is no. It's not about that. It's not about finding the ugly, and it's about also digging in there and just concentrating on the solution and tweaking those thoughts.
If somebody's saying they don't want you to go there, it's uncomfortable for them, that's because they do have something there. Yeah,
totally.
Because I think that when there's a resistance, there's definitely something, probably.
They know there's something there that needs to be addressed. And what I find too, I don't know about you guys with the work you're doing, but I find sometimes it can be the littlest thing in childhood or something in a friend group that happened. It can, and as an adult, you're like, oh my God, that's what it was. That's not even a big deal. But as a kid, that's your world and you're making really important decisions. So sometimes it's not even like a huge traumatic event.
I'll give you an example of a very easy one. My dad was always bent that I didn't continue to play softball. I mean, it's so stupid. To me, it's so stupid. But on his deathbed, he was still saying it. And I was like, oh my God, Dad, you're hilarious that you would still be holding on to that. I was like, but as a child, that made me feel that I wasn't enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now I've done a lot of work, so I'm able to separate, but that's his shit, not mine.
I didn't have to go back and dig through like my memories or dig through photo albums or dig through my mom's brain about things that happened to me when I was a child. When I sat in meditation and in a place of opening myself up, the events and the things were just released to me like naturally. And then I knew that memory was put in front of me because that was something that I needed to look at. So you don't have to torture yourself and search and search and search, for me at least. I mean, for example, we were doing a podcast and it dawned on me that my brother, Jason, had taken me to a park and dared me to jump off this huge tower. And he had lied to me and told me he had jumped, but really he slid down the slide. And I jumped off of this like rooftop slide tower and hurt myself really bad. And that was released to me. And I think that it taught me not to trust people because I trusted him so much in that moment. I can actually feel it inside of me. So that discernment that Shanna always talks about is I felt this memory and I felt that lack of trust and how betrayed I was in that moment, that I was so hurt and I believed him and I trusted him with all my heart that he did it too. So that, and that that's why I did it. So, something as simple as that.
Yeah. Oh,
but it changes your mindset for the rest of your life. Some stupid little tiny things. So sometimes it's just shifting the perception about things or just recognizing it, letting it go, saying, hey, that doesn't exist in my life anymore. What do you do with your clients to change that mindset?
Yeah, well, I loved what you said earlier about realizing that it was their stuff. So I know when I do the timeline therapy and, what I do is I trace whatever feeling is coming up for people, like say they get a no in business. Well, what is that feeling? It's usually something like disappointment or doubt. Well, where did that feeling first come from, right? And we go back in time. And then once we realize those decisions, and everyone could actually even do that if they wanted to take them through that type of an exercise. And then we look at the decisions they made at that time. And then what I do is have them have their higher self come in to before that incident and have a conversation and what's really the truth and what's the wisdom and the knowledge and the resources they can share. And then you embody that. And then we, kind of walk through time and notice how things shift. And it's amazing because people always feel lighter, like they've been able to let go of that and they don't need to have that running the show anymore. And they can just be who they really are.
So I have them rename it to something powerful. So for me, if it was like, softball, you know what? It's not that I quit. I changed my direction, right? It's not that I was like a quitter. I didn't even resonate with that. My dad did. That's his shit. So for me, I went back and it was like, maybe you could even call it a feminine transition. You could rename it instead of quitting softball.
I love that.
I just saw a huge orb go from right by your head and went, whew. I will send you the video because it was so obvious.
Really? Oh,
it was a huge orb and then it was like several streams.
Oh, I wonder who came to join us. I
don't know. It's super amazing. Almost came out of your head. Yeah. I'm going to have to remember to go back right here. Where's the timestamp? Yeah. It was that cool. I love it. I know. I'm sorry, but it just totally distracted me. It's amazing.
Well, it was 11/11.
11/11.
It was probably 11/11.
We got divinity with us right now. That was amazing.
Oh my gosh, that is so awesome. Yeah. Chris, what was your dad's name?
Jim. James.
Sorry about that loss. It's so hard.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. Yeah. Thanks. Thank goodness for tools like this, though. Yes. I mean, it's still so sad to not see him in that form, but, to be able to still communicate. And, I went on such a journey after watching The Secret and got into all kinds of things that were mind blowing, and like a book on angels. And I was like, oh my God, it got so uncomfortable. I had to put it down and then read a few other books and then come back to it. And then it was like, this makes sense now. And now it just, makes so much sense. But being able to, contact a medium who could channel his energy. And now I've learned how to connect with him directly in my mind's eye, which I've really been working on lately. And it's just so cool. Yeah. It's like, they're still here. Yeah. So
absolutely. It's probably one of my biggest blessings in life was being opened up to realizing that can happen. And that we can connect with those loved ones that have passed on. So yeah, I totally get that. I cherish that. Earlier I'd mentioned feeling stuck. And you hear that word stuck a lot. And so I'm going to ask you to dig back into that for a second and kind of describe what that felt like.
Yeah, I love that question. I don't know if I've ever clearly defined it, so bear with me. But I know, at the time, and I felt like this during my coaching career too. So, I think it's that feeling of no longer feeling fulfilled and happy with the career that you're doing. And I'm sure it shows up in other ways as well in life. But for me, it was around career and just not feeling fulfilled. That's really what it was. And I longed to feel passionate about what I was doing. So I guess it's the opposite of that. I wasn't feeling passionate. I couldn't see how to feel passionate again either. So that's probably the stuckness, like where you can't see your next steps or your way out. So you just feel like that's what it is and you're stuck there. So, but what I can say is this knowledgeable self could go back to the other self that didn't know anything about spirituality and say that there's always, a way out. And we just have to ask those questions and be open to what shows up, which I think is really what The Secret, watching that movie, enabled me to do, because it got me into dreaming big again and possibility thinking. And then I started to see those next steps. But at the time, feeling stuck was not feeling passionate and not feeling fulfilled, knowing I really wanted to make a difference and not knowing how to do that.
Do you feel like when you're in that space of stuckness, that there's all these symptoms that seem to maybe be universal, people are having anxiety or depression, or maybe they're even filling that space with alcohol or drugs or some sort of prescription medicine because they're unhappy or not aligned with where they're supposed to be. And so their body starts screaming at them. I just see that. And I see it in a lot of young people. It's so sad, because they're like, what do I do with my life? This is not what I want to do. And so they're stuck, but then they have all these symptoms of being stuck. Stuck has a lot of symptoms.
Yeah. With The Secret, I was led to so many books and things on this. And my ultimate really is A Course in Miracles. And for me, it's that we're so powerful and we are meant to create joy and love, that just to be in alignment with that. And I think when we slip into those places of anxiety and depression, and I've had my fair share of that as well, that we think that that's it, and it's no, that's not the way we're meant to be. And it almost makes us feel like a victim, and that we have to settle and that there's no way out. And
low vibration of victim. Yeah, totally. Let me ask you, you said the word create, because a lot of times people think creativity is just art, creating. It's not all art in music. It's creating a life, designing yourself something. Can you talk about how creating and creativity works with entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I love that question because I used to get hung up on that too. And I felt like, oh, I'm not creative. I don't know if you can see the guitars in the background, but
I got a fake one behind me. No.
My husband is so creative that way. He's, amazing with music and story writing and things like that and artsy. So I always thought, well, that's not me. And then along this journey, I've realized that no, creation is just bringing something into a way of being, into fruition, manifesting into the physical, right? It's anything. I mean, you could go out. This has happened to me where I'm like, I would love a housekeeper. And then she shows up. She's at someone else's house.
Well, can you send that over here? Because my house is awfully fucked up right now.
But it's like, that's what it is. It's just our thoughts. So it applies to anything. And I love creating my business and thinking about programs and, new courses and speaking and webinars and things that will really help people. And that to me, I could spend all day long, in that zone. And that to me is true creativity, is whatever we're passionate about, bringing to the light and focusing on it. And letting it come to fruition, because we're the only ones that get in our own way of that process, with everything we're talking about, all those limiting beliefs that stop us.
So let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
What would someone like me do? Like, for example, I have bills that need to be paid and our sense of soul is doing great. But unfortunately, I have to balance lately because, I'm living on my own now for the first time ever in my life. I have had to pull a little bit of my focus back because I have to work. I have to pay bills. Mm-hmm. Now, I will say it does feel like I have a little bit of resistance. So part of me wants to just can the job, like forget waitressing, and then just put all my focus back into sense of soul. But that's not realistic. We talk about that balance, and that balance with kids, family, and creativity and passion, because that passion can really take over. And before you know it, you're so into that creativeness and that passion that you're like finding that it's pulling you away from your family or your other commitments. So balance, talk about that.
Yeah, I think that's such a great question. First of all, you have to get your basic needs met, right? So whatever way you need to do that. And so if it's waitressing right now, I totally think that and I'm getting the tingles. Maybe we've got some more orbs in here, but it's like that showed up for you for a reason to help you, right? That is in alignment with what you're asking for right now. And I think it's the same for people that want to make a career change. Like, don't just throw out the other job unless you can financially, then great. But let's put together a plan. And that's really where the strategy piece of my mind comes in. Like, hey, maybe that's not your forever dream, but let's get you to bringing in revenue the other way with what lights you up and map out a whole plan on what you can do to get that going. Right. And I don't know what else you're doing, but I would really want to know, are you coaching? Are you doing retreats? What is that? Right. And what do you need to replace the other income, and where do you need to get to? And then you can keep growing and scaling from there.
I mean, I've made more money because of our podcast, because of the outside stuff that I've gotten.
Yeah. And that's a whole trajectory. But I think it's getting clear, right? It's getting really clear on what you want to create moving forward and what steps can you take while you're still doing what you need to do to have your current needs met. So back to this housekeeper example, because it really did happen. So when we were years ago about to hire a housekeeper for the first time, after we had moved to California, and there wasn't any extra money to pay for it. I had no idea how we were going to pay for it, but I really wanted that help so it could free up my time to either work or be with the kids. They were super little then. And what I have learned through the universal laws is the decision always comes first. So it's making the decision that I'm hiring a housekeeper, putting it out to the universe. I don't know how that's going to happen. And literally within a couple of days, a new client showed up that enabled me to do that. But here's the thing, we have to notice the new client. because everything's all around us right now. All the solutions are right there. And we're just not seeing it because of those limiting beliefs that are literally blocking our vision, right? So if we can get into that higher vibration, like you're talking about, that possibility thinking, this is possible, it is there, the self-love, it all is connected to it, then we can see like, oh, I keep thinking about Amanda. Why am I thinking about Amanda? I need to reach out to her. And then you reach out to her and you realize she needs help with this and that, and she becomes a client. It's like, it really can be that simple if we would allow it to be.
Yeah. It's interesting because I mean, I'm sitting here thinking like, I'm getting real honest with myself about like my limiting belief. And mine is a lack of self-trust. So Shanna loves Reiki. She trusts Reiki. She believes in Reiki. She lives Reiki. I have not created anything that I feel that way with yet. And that I trust that much. So it's that limiting belief I'm putting on myself, which really goes down to the core of me just having self-trust issues because of relationships that I've had throughout my life. Because I know the programs I've created are amazing, but it's that fear of that lack of trust. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, totally. Especially with the story you shared about your brother. Oh my God, that's like heart-wrenching when you were talking about that. Like no doubt, that's showing up. So then I would look at you need to believe instead. What's that empowered belief? Whether it's trusting in yourself or the universe. And that's really where we need to reframe it, right? And we need to repeat that belief over and over, like have it on a whiteboard on your bathroom mirror, like every single day, right? Because it's that consistent repetition that's going to help us reprogram the subconscious. And then we need to make decisions from that place. Like if I really trusted myself or whatever that belief is, what would I go and do? What action would I take? And then taking that new action starts to create a new result. And then we've totally changed what we're doing.
Oh, I love that because you're right. It's all right here around me. I know it is. And when you were describing that, when you were saying it's all right there, we're just choosing not to see it. I had this vision of like, just grab it, just hold on to it. Why don't you trust yourself enough just to grab it and say that, you know what, this is mine and I love it and I trust myself and I'm going to evolve it. So yeah, I just, I love it. I love the work you do. That's awesome.
I love that just resonated. I feel like I'm going to cry. That's so amazing because you can totally create whatever you want. It's right there and you don't have to.
Like I love Reiki because you can like put your own creativity in it and make it your own. And I tell my students all the time, like a lot of what I'm going to teach you is just my own experiences and I know what works. Like they don't teach this in a book. They don't teach it in the Reiki manual, but this is how I do it. And then I just keep to like some, main traditions of Reiki that are taught, but like really just putting whatever works for you into a program and loving it, loving it. Yeah. Like, having fun with it. That's how I feel. Like, totally. I love, and I have so much fun and passion when I talk about ancestry. I mean, I know it burns, it just fires me up. It ignites my soul. I could talk about it all day. But everyone has an ancestry. So like, I just love it. But it's something that I know I'm meant to do because of how much it fires me up.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. It's interesting at our retreat this weekend. It was our first Sense of Soul retreat in Crested Butte, and Shanna taught the whole thing. I've known Shanna since I was 15. And there were times where I was just staring at her and I was like, it was just really beautiful to watch because she was so in the zone. And you could tell she was just fully aligned. Like everything about her energy, everything was just like, you could feel her passion. And it was a very authentic passion. There's a difference, it was like coming from her soul, not just some place trying to sell a car to someone. Like it was,
and I think it was such my soul. I hardly even remember it.
oh, you're having an outer body experience while you're doing it because you're so passionate about it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. When you're in that zone, it's like you're just connected to something else, which, yeah, we always are, right? But I think we just forget. So it's like opening up to that and allowing it.
So how is it, I'm curious, how is it that someone takes this passion and decides to twist it into the entrepreneurial? You could have taken it so many other directions. What was it that this work did for you that made you want to share it with everyone else in the world?
I think for me, just learning about what coaching was and then hiring a coach. And back then, I was working further away. I was commuting so many hours. And so she had me setting goals like go for a walk in nature once a week, go for a massage once a month, which those types of goals then were pretty foreign, that now everyone just goes for a massage and that's like what we do. But those little things, because I just wasn't taking care of myself in that way. And so then I started seeing such great results. I was happier. I was nicer to be around with my family. And, that just really led me to believing in the process of goal setting and accountability. And that was how I decided I really wanted to be a coach. And then the journey of that just has sort of evolved. So as I was reading more about the law of attraction, I was really using it to grow my business and also to move to California. And I always thought I would help people with a career change because that's what I was doing. But because I was learning so much about how to be an entrepreneur and things like online marketing and newsletters before really it was even a thing, I started attracting other entrepreneurs. And so I just kind of went with, this is what the universe is showing me. I'm going to stay on this path. And then what happened from there is I really started feeling blocked and I had plateaued in my own business. So once I really started studying the subconscious along with the universal laws, then everything took off. And then I started getting certified in those modalities myself so I could help.
So you had something
my
blocking
own
you.
Yeah.
So you had something blocking
yeah.
you. So you had to go deeper and find out what was subconsciously in your way.
I realized, at a certain point that I was the common denominator. I was taking all these courses, spending all this money on masterminds and all kinds of things. And I was stuck, quote unquote, with the business results. And I knew it was possible because I believed fully we could be, do, and have anything in life. I was studying the universal laws, everything, but I couldn't get it to work in this one area. And so once I started looking at belief systems deep down, because really when they, talk about the law of attraction and like attracts like, it's the energy of the belief, the feeling that we're putting out, right? So that it makes sense. We might say, I want to be successful, but one of my limiting beliefs was that I thought that really successful people were in some way too cool for school, rude, right? And I had a value conflict with that because I didn't want to be that type of person. So deep down, that was the feeling I was putting out. So no wonder, it couldn't flow in. It kept me on a hamster wheel. So once I really was able to break through some of that, then everything took off. And then now, that's what I do with my own clients because, the coaching kind of evolved as well, because it was like, okay, we're setting goals, but now people aren't doing it and they're not taking action and they're not doing what they say that they're going to do. So what is happening? And it's not that they're not coachable. I know that's really popular to say. It's that there's some belief going on deep down. Now, they do have to have a willingness, like you were talking about before, to want to move through it. They still have free will, so they have to want to.
So I just see also the connection to, you wanted to help people from the very beginning. I love to work with people. Mandy loves your stories. These things are rooted in us.
Something I learned a long time ago in the first coaching certification was not to should all over yourself. right? And it's like those shoulds.
She must have took the same one with Randy Haverson. That's his favorite.
Because it's like, oh, we just need to give ourselves permission to really tune in to what we love and what lights us up, and then start making decisions from that place. I need to learn how to, really get over my fears and get up on stage, like all those things. But I think that's really the key, is being willing to do what you need to do to make those things happen.
A coach sometimes needs coaching. I mean, we're not all figuring it out and we're healed forever. We have to use our own tools.
Oh yeah. I've always had a coach. So I probably, oh my God, spent so much money on coaches because I believed in it so much. And I needed to learn from people that had already done what I wanted to do. And so now it's more specific, hey, do I need help with Instagram, or do I need help with building out a funnel or something like that? It's more specific. But for years I had, life coaches, personal coaches, NLP coaches. And that really is what helped me move through my blocks and inspired a new passion of being able to go even deeper with people. So I'm not a therapist by any means, but the NLP techniques that I've learned enable me to go deeper with people and really discover those, beliefs. But that didn't come about until I worked through that myself with my own coach. So yeah, I totally believe in it. And you know what? Now I'm pretty much working solely with coaches to help them be, better coaches, and to learn these tools and to kind of pass along the baton with this kind of system that I've created for business owners.
And do you find that you learn from your coaches? I mean, from your students? Because I feel like they've been my greatest teachers. Totally. I'm constantly learning as I teach. So I think it's such a beautiful exchange.
Yeah, I love that. It's so awesome. And you know what's interesting is I was thinking about this morning, I'll catch myself like, they are so inspired right now with what they're creating, and I'm feeling a little off. So it's like, how can I get that back? What do I need to do now? Because I'm kind of someone who gets bored. So I need to be evolving and learning new things. And, as long as I'm in that space, then I can bring that back to the coaching that I'm doing and the programs I'm creating as well. But they're good. It's like a little check-in, right? Like, I'm not feeling the way they're feeling, so I need to get back on track.
I think it's interesting that it's kind of like when you're living in your crown chakra and you're walking around connecting to spirits and getting all these downloads, like you, as a human, your ego, you want more. And so creativity comes to me like almost in the same way, like in a download. It's like, I'll go weeks without anything, and then it all just wants to fucking hit me at one time, and I can't stop, and I'm ignoring my kids, and I'm not making them dinner because I'm like, hold on, I'm getting all this amazing creativity. And like, it's like literally I'm in the zone and I don't want to stop because it feels so good. And I'm afraid if I walk away from it, it's not going to come back, and I got to get it all down on paper before it leaves me. And it's almost like this weird relationship that I have with creativity, because then all of a sudden I'm doing a million different things. It's not just one piece of creativity. It's like all these ideas come at once. And so it's learning to be able to kind of shift through it and work with what is suiting you the best and what you can take and do with, rather than trying to do 5 different things at once.
That trust thing came up again, right? Because you were like, wondering if it's ever going to come through again. It's like, it's always going to be there. So then you can, relax a little, like, hey, I don't need to do all of this at once. There's always going to be that flow coming in. But I hear you. And certain times of the month, let's be honest, that, we're more creative, and it's like, oh, you want to harness that when it comes in, and you're feeling best energetically.
Yeah. I am so like that. I'm like, oh shit, good, I got energy, I gotta hurry up and do whatever I fucking can before it goes away. And I'm so scared it won't come back next month. So I'm like, I'm really gonna get it all.
And I kind of feel like that's probably what writers do. Like, I don't know what movie it was, but he was like sitting at his typewriter, and it was like
Are you thinking of like Misery?
Shanna, how did you know that was the movie I was thinking
because
of?
I saw it when you said it, but I'm like, that's creepy. She forced him.
I know. And that movie haunts me because she hit his legs with hammers while he was tied down. No, I don't know. Shanna, see, that's why you're my best friend. You literally read my mind. And I'm like, why am I thinking of that creepy movie Misery? But yeah, it's like writers. They get it. It's like they're going through the grocery store and then all of a sudden they get a download of what to write and they like run to their typewriter and they're like that's me when I get into creativity.
Oh gosh, that's hilarious. Yeah. Have you guys read anything by Kate Northrup with the Do Less? She talks about your cycle. So this only is now going to apply to the female listeners, but working with your cycle, literally down to what types of tasks to work on in your business and what types of activities. Even for working out, like this week should be a yoga. This week should be in, something energizing. Honestly, it is such a game changer because you're like, oh, and it works with the moon and the energies. And it's clearly not my area of expertise, but
ooh, I want her on our podcast.
Yes, you should have her. It's so helpful because you're like, oh, this is, if you start tracking, your time of the month, you start to notice these patterns.
Wow.
Yeah. And then like what you're saying, because some weeks you're going to be in that mode of like all the ideas coming in. And then other weeks you need to just like have quiet time with your office door shut and working, on systems. So it's really fascinating. It was a total game changer for me.
Wow. Yeah. That I've never thought of that. That makes a lot of sense because that week before my period, I'm so lethargic and so tired and so run down.
And you don't have to push yourself with working out and you can like get the meals set up properly for the kids that are super easy. It's like cutting yourself a break,
Yeah. Hey, Chris, did you end up working with anyone from The Secret?
I haven't, but I have been able to speak at some of the same events as people from The Secret, which has been so cool. And John Astoreth, who is one of my favorites, lives just down the road. So I got to have lunch with him one time. It was so cool. And he's from Canada too. So, and he's in San Diego.
Like, we have a Bob Doyle on from this. I guess he contributed, coming on soon. And I don't even know who he is, but yes.
You.
Yeah, we'll have to.
Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, and we also had on, unfortunately, someone that was in James Ray, his sweat lodge. And so, but for me too, The Secret was huge. It was so good. And it is sad that there's like any negativity that is connected to it in any way.
I love that it just got the word out. It's like it's been around forever. There's been other, way more books that have been out for a longer time. And that just really like brought it to people, through Oprah and.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Love Oprah. Oprah, if you're listening, girl, really love you. Do you feel that everyone has it in them to be an entrepreneur and to go, after what they want? How do you feel about that?
I feel like anybody and everybody can do whatever they want. Like, I really, I know is, what my purpose is to get that out.
To get that out.
Yeah, because we can be, do, and have anything. And it's who we are on the inside. So I have a podcast too with my best friend since we were 15. I have to tell you guys that, I love that.
That's right.
How did we not know that?
It's all on A Course in Miracles. So we've been studying this, applying it for, so long. And so we just get on there and we yammer on about it and how we apply it to our lives.
Okay, well, that's good. I need that because the only thing I've been able to, I bought the book, but then I had to buy the dummy book. And I understood the dummy book. Okay, I was excited about the dummy book.
Right? Yeah. Yes. And that's kind of why we put it out there because it was so hard for us as well at first.
Yeah.
And, I think it took me 4 years to read it at first.
Right.
And then it just clicked when I got the audio. I will say that. When I got the audio book.
I feel that way all the time about audio first reading. Yeah.
So we're of course still learning and growing, and it's always a work in progress. But one of the things I really believe with that is that we're this essence, is who we really are. We're this unconditional love, and we're all connected. And it's just remembering that, like how, if you think about that blissful feeling, it's hard to even put it into words, but that, unconditional love where we're just so blissful and happy. And it's like, if we can just remember that's who we really are, and that's what we need to tune into, instead of trying to manage this outside world, it's coming back to that feeling and creating more of
inside. Yeah, it's inside of you.
Yeah. Well, you've been amazing. If someone wants your guidance and to, join one of your classes or wants to listen to your podcast, and just find out more yumminess about you and your best friend, where can they find you?
Oh, I love that so much. And thank you for asking me that. My website is Decisions by Design. And on that, there is a free self-care masterclass. So my whole thing is connecting the dots for people between self-care and really manifesting what it is that they're wanting. It all comes back to ourselves, like we were talking about. So there's a fun masterclass there with a few different parts. There's 3 parts. That's a great spot. And on there is the podcast link too. So that's probably the best spot. And then I'm on Instagram and Facebook as well. So would love to connect with everyone.
And now it's time for Break That Shit Down.
Really stepping into this place that we really can be, do, and have anything, and trying to align ourselves with that. So if you're having trouble even believing that, maybe just opening yourselves up to the possibility that anything is possible, and just watching what shows up to help strengthen that belief. And if you're already doing that, just really putting out there what you want and believing that it's possible. And if it's hard to believe it for yourself, look at somebody else. This podcast is amazing. That you can create it, and just watch what unfolds and shows up. Because if you don't believe it for yourself, believe it. We believe in you. I just think the more we can encourage one another, the better. So those are just what's coming to mind.
Awesome. You have been nothing short of an absolute joy. You've got me right now in a good place in my mind to go and do a little bit of work on myself. So thank you for the free therapy guidance.
My honor. I'm so glad it was helpful.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. This was amazing. I could talk all day.
Hey, Chris, did you have a carpenter in your family?
Yes. My papa. Okay. He had a whole wood shop.
Well, he's been here with us this whole time.
Oh my God.
Kept smelling this smell, and I'm like, what do you do? And they're a carpenter, and it was a man.
Oh my gosh. He lived with us growing up, and my parents had a whole part of the garage turned into his wood shop. So it was all that smell is so familiar to me, what you're talking about.
I bet you that was that little dot flying away from you too, or flying in. I'll have to look at it.
Okay, you ladies are so talented. You're just so real. I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, did you know that Sense of Soul now has a Patreon where you can get exclusive episodes, mini-series that Mandy and I have been working on for a long time that we can't wait to share with you, monthly readings, Sense of Soul Sacred Circles, workshops, behind-the-scene clips, and much more. Hop on Sense of Soul Patreon right now and sign up.
Thanks for being with us today. We hope you will come back next week. If you like what you hear, don't forget to rate, like, and subscribe.
Thank you. We rise to lift you up.
Thanks for listening.